Hello. Today I'm going to compare demiurges from Gnostic philosophy and Platonic, Neoplatonic points of view. And the reason I'm doing this is I did a video, Thoughts on the Gnostic Soul Trap and Louche Psycho-Etheric Energy. And in that video, I did a mind map where I broke down a lot of questions I had about the different points of view of the demiurge. If you know anything about Gnosticism, then this video will be easy to follow. If you do not, you should check out some other videos in my Gnosticism playlist. And if you want to go deeper into this topic and you haven't seen the Gnostic Soul Trap video, you can check that out here. So to begin with, I'm going to briefly explain the 2 points of view. The Gnostic demiurge is an imperfect, often malevolent creator who traps humanity in a flawed and chaotic material world, separate from the higher divine realm. The Platonic, Neoplatonic demiurge is a rational and benevolent creator who shapes the material world as a reflection of divine order, guiding all existence toward unity with the ultimate source, the One. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this list of topics: role in creation, relationship to divine source, nature and intent, view of material world, and the symbolism and representation. And I'm going to present evidence for both sides, and then after that I'm going to go through and kind of judge each side, and at the end I'll come up with a conclusion of what I believe the demiurge is based off the evidence. Okay, so the role in creation: the Gnostic demiurge is a flawed, ignorant, or malevolent creator, and it's responsible for trapping the divine spark in a prison, the divine spark of Sophia. From the Platonic, Neoplatonic side, it's a benevolent and intelligent creator who orders the cosmos based on internal forms or the divine intellect, or nous. So that's kind of the basic role. Relationship to supreme source. So the Gnostic is separate from and often opposed to the true, ineffable God or monad, ignorant of the higher realms, and operates under the illusion of being the ultimate creator, sometimes associated with arrogance, hubris, or even hostility toward the divine pleroma, the fullness of God, and also the material world, I would say. There's an antagonistic relationship there. In the Platonic, Neoplatonic, it's closely aligned with the ultimate source, the One, and acts as its agent in manifesting the cosmos, a reflection of the divine intellect, and carries out the divine will with wisdom and purpose. It exists within a hierarchical and harmonious cosmology. The nature and intent: the Gnostic demiurge, often viewed as ignorant, corrupt, or even evil, depending on the Gnostic tradition. Now, some Gnostic traditions don't see it that way. I'm focusing on the majority in this case. It's motivated by a desire to control or dominate the material world. Its creation is seen as a mistake, an error, or an act of rebellion against the true God. For the Platonic, Neoplatonic, a benevolent, wise, and purposeful figure seeks to create order and beauty in the cosmos, motivated by a desire to reflect the divine order and goodness in the material world. So their view of the material world. In the Gnostic version, it's the material world is fundamentally flawed, corrupt, and a trap for the divine spark. Salvation involves transcending the material realm and returning to the pleroma. The demiurge's creation is something to escape or overcome. In the Platonic, Neoplatonic, the material world is a reflection of divine forms and inherently good, though imperfect. The cosmos is a harmonious and purposeful emanation from the divine. The goal is not escape, but integration and alignment with the divine order. And I'd also say transcending the forms we currently inhabit, into higher forms. For the symbolism or representation, the Gnostic demiurge is often associated with negative symbols such as the lion-headed serpent or oppressive figures. In some systems, it is identified with Yaldabaoth or Aldabaoth, a being born from Sophia's mistake, almost like an abortion. In the Platonic, Neoplatonic, it's associated with positive symbols of craftsmanship, light, and order, seen as an expression of divine intellect and the principle of cosmic unity. So with that out of the way, I'm going to jump into the evidence for the Gnostic demiurge. Existence of suffering and imperfection. Natural disasters, disease, and death might be seen as evidence of an imperfect or careless creator. The Platonic, Neoplatonic, these are some questions I have then. If the Neoplatonic demiurge is good, why is there so much suffering, like natural disasters and disease? How can the world reflect divine goodness if it contains so much pain and destruction? If the world is meant to be harmonious, why does it seem so chaotic and imperfect at times? Human alienation and feelings of disconnection from the divine, and existential struggles. These are things that I think most people identify with. And these are some questions. If the world reflects the divine, why do people feel so disconnected and long for something more? If the world is perfectly created, why do so many people feel alienated or lost? And if the Creator is wise, why do so many feel out of place in the world? And so for the Gnostic demiurge, desire for transcendence, that's some evidence, and mystical experiences often describe a longing to return to a higher transcendent reality. And these are some questions I have. If the material world is part of the divine order, why do so many feel a strong desire to escape it and return to a higher realm? Why do mystical experiences often lead people to long for a transcendent realm if the material world is supposed to reflect divine harmony and purpose? So from the Gnostic point of view, the dualism in nature, the stark contrast between good and evil, light and dark, could point to a dualistic worldview where the demiurge rules the material realm separate from a higher spiritual source. And these are my questions. If the world is a reflection of the divine, why is there such a stark contrast between good and evil, light and dark? Shouldn't the world reflect a more unified, harmonious reality? Does this imply a conflict between the material world and a higher spiritual reality? Manipulation by systems of control. Societal, political, and religious systems as extensions of the demiurge's control. The pervasive sense of being trapped by oppressive systems might support this idea. And I know most of us have felt this way. Either it's government, or it's our job, or, it's healthcare, or all these systems that are in place that are much bigger than us. And these are my questions. Shouldn't these systems promote freedom and harmony instead? Why would a divine being reward them with more and more success? Why do we see so much exploitation and manipulation in the world? And the last has to do with the simulation theory. Quantum mechanics and holographic theory suggest that the material world is illusory or a flawed simulation. And here are my questions. Why does modern science suggest that our perception of reality might be fundamentally flawed, incomplete, or duplicitous? Does this indicate imperfection in the creation? Now I'm going to go on the other side and give some evidence for the Platonic, Neoplatonic. So, order and harmony in the cosmos. The observable laws of physics, mathematics, and design suggest a rational and benevolent creator working to bring order out of chaos. Patterns like the Fibonacci sequence in nature reflect beauty and structure. Now here are my questions. Wouldn't a flawed creator struggle to maintain such balance and beauty? The universe functions with consistency and stability, with laws. Could this indicate that the universe was created by a rational, intelligent source rather than a flawed being? And then human capacity for reason and virtue. Human intellect, creativity, and moral reasoning can be viewed as reflections of the divine intellect. The aspiration toward goodness and unity mirrors the Neoplatonic emphasis on returning to the one. These are my questions. Shouldn't these qualities be corrupted if the Creator was imperfect or malevolent? Why does humanity strive for goodness, truth, and virtue, qualities that seem to reflect a higher divine source? And I say humanity as a group. I don't think all of humanity feels that way. I think a rare few actually want to exploit people, but the majority that I've met in my life do not. Evolution toward greater complexity. The progression of life and consciousness from simple forms to complex beings could reflect a purposeful ordering of reality by a benevolent creator. Doesn't this suggest purposeful design by a benevolent creator? Couldn't it point to a higher, more intelligent guiding force? If the demiurge is imperfect, why would the universe show this progression of life, moving toward greater complexity and self-awareness? Aesthetic and ethical order. The perception of beauty, symmetry, and moral order in the world supports the idea of a craftsman who shares the material realm to reflect higher truths. If the demiurge is not a craftsman of higher truths, why do we experience a sense of aesthetic and ethical order that aligns with the idea of a creator shaping the world with intention and purpose? So here are my conclusions. The first thing I did when I went through all this is I inputted it into AI to see what AI thought, because I'm an artist, so my artist and writer, so my point of view could be seen as from an irrational perspective to some degree. I wouldn't say I'm an overly emotional person. I do have my moments, but I like to see things from a logical point of view, but I am a human being, so I thought maybe the AI would have a more detached, analysis of this. So at first, the AI wouldn't give me an answer. It was very vague, and it was, saying from humanity's point of view, it was this way or this way. And I was starting to get frustrated. I tried rewording it a bunch of times, and eventually it came to the conclusion, after I kind of forced it, that the evidence says Platonic and Neoplatonic. I think that might have been because I was forcing it, to be honest, because its first reply was the opposite. When I did that, I asked it why, and then it started to get kind of lost, and it changed its mind. Whether that's true or not, this is my read. Based off the amount of evidence that I presented, I think it leans towards the Gnostic view, unfortunately. Now, I say that with some caveats. The first thing to think about is a lot of these questions that I posed to challenge the evidence, they have no answers. They're not answers we can readily come by as human beings. But they are questions I think it's important to ponder. So this is my outlook at the moment, but it could change if I get different evidence or I have different experiences. I think it's the Gnostic demiurge point of view, but I say that to simplify my answer because I think my answer is more complex. I've said this in other videos, but I think the demiurge is a bit like a child, and we are the playthings, I suppose. The monad, the ultimate God, the one, is like the father. And so when you think about it that way, fathers are busy, they have to work, they have to maintain things, they have a lot on their plate. So they often don't pay attention to their children because they're too busy. With that said, sometimes they intervene when it's necessary. And I think in this case, that would be a bit like Philip K. Dick's zebra theory, Valis theory, where the transcendent God is kind of breaking its way through or helping people see that it exists or somehow influencing their life. It's said that the material world created by the demiurge is a reflection. In many texts, it says that. That would explain things like divine order, symmetry, and ethical truths existing in this world. And what I mean is that they exist as ideas, but they don't exist as absolutes. The transcendent version, the higher forms of these, are the absolutes. And we're the flawed emanation from that main source, like a copy of a copy of a copy. I think it's best to look at it like this. If you have a masterpiece of art, let's say the Mona Lisa, you have the original, which is priceless. But then you have the copies that people make, you have the forgeries, you have the millions of art prints, you have the images on the internet, etc. I definitely think it leans towards a flawed reality, but in some cases, I think I lean to the other side as far as the higher forms and ideals. So maybe it's a combination of both. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but based off the evidence, in trying to use the most rational side of my brain, that's what I've come to. You can leave comments below on your views and what you think, or if you have any other questions that I missed and you'd like to address for the audience, you can also leave those below. But I'll leave it at that. Take care. Have a good day.